If you've got big dreams but find yourself scrolling through your phone instead of working on them, here's what nobody tells you. It's not about willpower. It's about making the first step so stupidly small that your brain can't say no. You know that feeling when you want to write a book, start a business, or transform your body? But the moment you think about it, this heavy weight drops on your chest and suddenly cleaning your desk sounds more appealing? J.K. Rowling felt that exact same paralysis when she was a broke single mom staring at blank pages, knowing she had an entire magical universe in her head but couldn't figure out how to get it out, so she made a deal with herself to write just one sentence about a boy who didn't know he was a wizard. The secret that separates people who achieve their ambitious goals from those who stay stuck isn't talent or motivation. It's understanding that your brain labels big tasks as threats, and the only way to bypass that alarm system is through tiny, almost laughably small steps. Most people wait for the perfect moment or the right burst of energy, but consistency, built on small habits, will always crush occasional bursts of inspiration. What if the only thing standing between you and your dream life is just learning how to start with something so small it feels almost pointless?
Here's something that'll probably make you feel better. Laziness isn't some permanent character flaw you were born with. It's just a habit your brain developed to avoid discomfort, and habits can be reprogrammed. Think about it. Every single person on this planet, from billionaires to Olympic athletes, naturally gravitates toward the path of least resistance because our brains are wired for survival, not achievement. Stephen King, before becoming one of the most prolific authors alive, used to throw his early manuscripts in the trash because sitting down to write felt like dragging himself through mud. His wife literally had to fish Carrie out of the garbage and convince him it was worth finishing. The game changer happens when you stop seeing yourself as inherently lazy and start recognizing that you're simply caught in routines that prioritize immediate comfort over long-term fulfillment. What separates someone scrolling TikTok for 3 hours from someone building their dream isn't some magical discipline gene. It's understanding that small steps, repeated consistently, create momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. And honestly, once you crack this code, you look back and wonder why you ever thought you were lazy in the first place. The biggest mistake ambitious people make is treating their goals like they're supposed to climb Mount Everest in a single leap, when reality works more like taking one step, then another, until you look back and realize you've actually climbed something incredible. Let's talk about Jerry Seinfeld. Before he became a comedy legend, he was a struggling comedian who couldn't stay consistent with writing jokes, so he created what he called the chain method. Every day, he wrote just one joke, he'd mark a big X on his calendar, and his only job was to not break the chain. It sounds almost too simple, right? But here's the magic. When you tell yourself, I'm going to write one sentence instead of I'm going to write a chapter, your brain doesn't trigger that panic response that makes you want to run away and organize your sock drawer instead. Want to learn guitar? Forget about mastering Stairway to Heaven. Just pick up the guitar and play one chord. Literally just press your fingers down and strum once, because that tiny action builds the neural pathway that eventually leads to playing full songs. The truth is, every massive achievement you've ever admired started with someone doing something so small it probably felt pointless at the time. But they understood that small steps create momentum, and momentum is what transforms lazy ambition into unstoppable progress.
Now here's where most people sabotage themselves without even realizing it. They rely on motivation instead of building routines that make the right choice the easiest choice. And that's like trying to drive cross-country without a GPS. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps didn't wake up every morning debating whether he felt like training. His coach, Bob Bowman, built such specific routines that Phelps's body would literally go on autopilot. Same breakfast, same stretches, same visualization process, same everything, so that when race day came, his brain didn't have to waste energy on decisions. Think of routines as training wheels for your ambitions. They guide you forward even when you don't feel particularly inspired. And eventually, the behavior becomes so automatic that it requires almost zero willpower. If you want to start working out, don't just tell yourself, "I'll exercise tomorrow." Instead, put your sneakers right next to your bed before you sleep, lay out your workout clothes, maybe even sleep in them if you're really struggling, because every tiny bit of friction you remove makes consistency 10 times more likely. Want to read more? Keep a book on your pillow so you literally can't get into bed without moving it, or leave it in your bathroom so you'll read a page while brushing your teeth. These sound like silly little tricks, but they work because they hack the way your brain actually operates. The people who seem to have incredible discipline aren't superhuman. They've just designed their environment and routines so well that doing the right thing becomes easier than doing nothing at all.
Here's a psychological trick that sounds too simple to work, but has literally changed millions of lives. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. And if it takes longer, just do 2 minutes of it anyway, because starting is always the hardest part. James Clear, the guy who wrote Atomic Habits, talks about how he wanted to build a reading habit, but felt overwhelmed by the idea of finishing entire books, so he made a rule. Read just 1 page, that's it. And if he wanted to stop after that single page, he could. But here's what happened. Most of the time, he'd keep reading, because the resistance wasn't in reading itself, it was in starting. Think about pushing a boulder down a hill. The first push requires all your strength, your muscles screaming, sweat dripping, but once it starts rolling, gravity does most of the work, and you're just guiding it. Want to clean your messy room, but it feels like staring at a disaster zone? Just clean 1 corner. Literally pick up 3 things and put them away, because once you break the seal of inertia, your brain often says, "Well, I'm already doing this, might as well continue." And here's the bonus that nobody talks about. Reward yourself for simply starting, not for finishing. If you write for 2 minutes, celebrate it. Maybe play your favorite song or give yourself a literal high five in the mirror, because your brain learns through positive reinforcement, not punishment. The magic isn't in doing everything perfectly. It's in teaching yourself that beginning something isn't as scary as your mind makes it seem. And once you master that, there's literally nothing you can't tackle with enough small steps and consistency.
Look, everyone who's ever achieved something meaningful started exactly where you are right now, staring at their dreams, wondering if they've got what it takes. And the answer is yes, but only if you stop waiting for perfection and start embracing consistency instead. You don't need to be the most talented person in the room. You don't need some rare genetic gift or a perfect childhood. What you need is to show up with small steps so regularly that eventually those steps become miles, and those miles become a completely different life. Think of your ambition like a tiny flame. One match strike by itself looks pathetically small, almost laughable when you compare it to the bonfire you're dreaming of. But every small action you take is another piece of wood on that fire. And if you keep feeding it consistently, one day you'll look up and realize you're standing in front of something that lights up the entire sky. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's literally the road you walk on to get there. And every person you admire has stumbled more times than you can count. The only real difference between someone living their dream and someone still wishing for it is that one person decided that doing something small today matters more than doing something perfect someday. So what are you waiting for?